In this video, we're going to show you how to install Qora Cut LedgeStone TightStack, or CLT. CLT comes in three colors: Lexington, a mix of tans, grays, blues, and browns; Gunstock, a deep earthy set of tans and browns; and Charcoal, a rich blend of whites, grays, and blacks. The coverage of the CLT panel is 48 inches wide and 18 inches high, for a total of 6 square feet per panel. The overall panel size is 49½ inches by 19 inches. This includes the fastening flange and overlaps. Along the top edge of the panel is an approximately 1-inch tall flange for fastening to the wall. At 8-inch increments are standoffs, which can be used for fastening and approximating the 16-inch fastener distance. Each side of the panel has a fastener pocket in the 6th row from the top or the 4th row from the bottom for fastening to the wall. These pockets are then covered by a fastener cover. There are 9 rows of stones, and each row is 48 inches long. This is important to remember when cutting panels. Regardless of where a panel is cut horizontally, measurements are taken from the edges of the stone in a row, except for the fastener pocket row. The panels are designed to overlap top to bottom, with the stones along the bottom covering the flange at the top in shiplap fashion. Breather buttons create a 3/8 inch ventilation gap. The minimum depth of the panel with breather buttons is 1/2 inch, and the maximum depth at the farthest projecting stone is 2 3/4 inches. Qora incorporates a ventilated facade or rain screen directly into the panel. When you flip the panel over, you'll see standoffs that are 3/8 of an inch or 10 millimeters tall, which manages water and airflow between the siding and the structure. These standoffs take the place of furring strips or any other materials normally applied behind sidings to provide an air gap. Along with the breather buttons are vapor vents, which are created during manufacturing, and small weep holes along the bottom of the ledgestone panel. These features are designed to handle all of the possible environments where Qora can be installed, and why Qora is approved for all climates by the International Building Code. Qora can be cut with a cut-off grinder or angle grinder using a masonry blade, a circular saw with a masonry blade, a table saw with a masonry blade, or a jigsaw with a masonry blade. Because Qora is hard, it lasts, but because it is thin, masonry blades also last for a very long time. To drill through Qora, a hammer drill is recommended, along with carbide-tipped masonry bits. A handheld cordless hammer drill works well. Ledgestone panels are made to appear natural. As a result, the edge of the stones are not perfectly straight. The stones will touch a straight edge at various points along the edge. As a result, it is important to pay close attention when making cuts using a square. Make sure the square is not cocked, and when installing panels, follow a line so they don't tilt. Qora's surface is very hard and contains sand, which contains silica. Silica is hazardous in respirable form, so respiratory protection should always be worn when sanding, sawing, drilling, or generating dust. CLT is a high-performing siding product that looks like stone but is much easier to install because Qora is lightweight and installs with screws. Fasten along the fastener flange every 16 inches and place a fastener in each fastener pocket. When installed outside, use fasteners rated for outdoors and a minimum of 1 fastener per square foot, so 6 per panel. It is not necessary to hit studs unless CLT is being installed in a high-velocity wind zone, where the fasteners must penetrate a stud to 1½ inches. We recommend modified truss head screws for the flange and fastener pockets because it is harder to overdrive the screw. However, bugle head or taper head screws along the flange are also acceptable, and they are recommended where face fastening is necessary. When driving the screw, anywhere along the flange is acceptable. Just don't overdrive. If you overdrive, caulk the hole and move to a new location. It's also a good idea to start fasteners before holding the panel in position. Self-tapping screws can penetrate Qora. However, the surface can be very hard and sometimes it is impossible to get a screw to penetrate in a particular location. In this case, try moving a little to the left or right. Alternately, pre-drill with a masonry bit. When face fastening, choose a location that is under a stone or in a deep joint. Drive the fastener to the level of the skin and apply color-matched caulk. Tapered head concrete fasteners are recommended for use over masonry and concrete. Qora requires a water or moisture-resistant barrier between Qora and the wall substrate. Qora is not waterproof. It is a ventilated facade system which provides drainage and air movement between the weather and a water-resistant barrier. This is accomplished with a code-compliant house wrap for wood and metal framing or a block or concrete sealer for masonry walls. When preparing for a Qora installation, the first thing to do is decide where Qora will be used and how much Qora will be needed. Calculate the total square feet required as with any siding project. Typical siding waste is 10 to 15% and Qora is no different. We've allowed 10% for the project we're showing in this video. One of the most important parts of a siding project is deciding on trim and how to make transitions on corners. Trim around fixtures like lights, wrap around corners, above, below, and around windows, and gables and soffits, so that you have an accurate plan for the trim materials that will be required. Here are a couple of options for transitioning from a Qora front to a different siding on the side. Traditionally, stone fronts are matched to trim butting against the back, and the gap created is caulked or mortar is applied. With Qora, the simplest is to cut the end of the Qora panels, leaving enough of an edge to butt either J-channel or another trim piece up against the back of the Qora panel. The end of the Qora panels can then be sealed with textured caulk and a coat of color-matched paint on the end, or simply color-matched caulk. If you run into a breather button, simply grind it off and cover it with caulk. On our board and batten project, the trim to be seen from the front. So we trim the panels straight, leaving an overhang equal to the depth of the trim, and sealed the ends with color-matched caulk. The trim from the board and batten sits nicely against the back of our panel for an inexpensive and quick trim on a transition from ledgestone to siding on a corner. A nice variation is to use Qora corners and cut the side edge flat. This gives a natural stone appearance to the edge with no caulking. Seal the cut corner and butt the channel directly to the cut corner. Remember, the deepest point of CLT is 2 1/4 inches, though that requires a 2-inch J-channel. Alternately, use build-up trim to that depth. This shows a little bit of the trim where the stones align on the front edge. Alternately, the trim could be on the corner of the house and the Qora panel can run into the corner trim, whether it is J-channel, bent aluminum, or composite trim. The important thing is to build that trim out to 2 3/4 inches to allow for the deepest stone to still be covered if a deep stone is butted to the edge. This style makes a nice straight edge and shows the trim from the front. Another option is to build the trim up, then overlap a piece of trim. This is standard on frieze boards at soffit and used on most shiplap sidings. Again, in this case, the trim is shown from the front, but no caulked edges are visible. Simply build the trim up, cut the Qora end and seal it, and then overlap with a piece of trim. These same style corner methods can be used around windows and doors. The Qora lineup includes external corners and split-face limestone sills to provide simple corners, trim, and transitions as well. The integrated CLT external corner is 18 inches high. The long leg is 8 inches and the short leg is 4 inches, and also includes the fastener flange along the top and fastener pockets on the sides of the corner. Corners can be ordered in left and right. With a left corner, the 8-inch leg is on the left when viewing the corner upright. With a right corner, the 8-inch leg is on the right when viewed upright. Alternate the corners when installing so that the corners offset. When starting with a left, the next corner on top should be a right. This provides the minimum recommended 4-inch offset for panels in each row. The same corner should not be stacked on top of another corner with the same orientation. Without an offset, the seam to the panels will all align and risks showing a repeating pattern in the installation. Keep this in mind when ordering corners. Qora split-face limestone sills come in two colors, light gray and medium gray. Modified truss head self-drilling screws are recommended for the flange and bugle or taper head screws for attachment through the face. Tapered head concrete fasteners are recommended for all masonry installations. The split-face sill is 47 inches long, 2 3/4 inches deep, and 3 inches tall. Sills are sloped and have 1/2 inch flanges on the top and bottom. There are two styles of the Qora split-face sill. The first generation has a flat back. The second generation has slightly raised bumps on the back. Flat back sills are provided with neoprene to be used as a spacer in the event the sill will be attached tightly to the wall. Sills are designed to be versatile so that they can be used with other building products. The flanges along the top and bottom are for attachment of the sill. If the sill is sitting on the flange of a Qora product, trim the bottom flange along the edge of the sill bottom. Any siding product can go above a split-face sill. The type of product may require a variable space between the top edge of the flange and the wall. Whether Qora, vinyl siding, cement fiber, or others, the installation remains the same. Set the sill flush on the CLT panel and rotate the sill as needed to make the transition to the siding above. Install shims to maintain the cavity distance. Shims can be composite, nylon spacers, or nylon washers as an example. Install the screws with spacers as appropriate and the siding above. Run a bead of caulk along the bottom edge of the sill to where it meets Qora below. When installing flush with a flat back or Generation 1 sill, maintain a gap between the wall and sill using shims. Flashing is required when the top edge of the sill is flush to the wall. In this example, we begin the sill installation with a flush edge. The sill is set flush to the edge of the panel below with an overhang to match the trim behind, and corner trim above the sill completes the installation. When wrapping a corner, miter the sill and leave a 1/4 inch gap for a bead of matching color caulk. The next sill should be attached leaving a 1/4 inch gap. After installing, fill the gap with matching colored caulk. Continue installing in the same fashion. At breaks, leave the factory finished edge exposed. Cut and seal the opposite edge. Use the drop-off for the other side, exposing the factory edge, and caulk the cut edge. Before beginning the Qora installation, make sure the exterior is sealed, all penetrations are properly flashed, and receiving trims are installed at corners, windows, soffits, gables, doors, and mounting blocks. Drip caps are recommended for all horizontal penetrations. Starting Qora begins like any other siding with a straight line. Measure for chalk lines at 18 inches apart. Consider where the top of panels will fall and adjust the starting point from the bottom if desired. Because Qora has an integrated rain screen, an insect barrier is recommended at the base of the installation. Products like QoraVent and HouseNet are examples of insect barriers for rain screen applications. Install an insect barrier strip to align with the bottom of the first row of panels. Panels can be installed left to right or right to left, but it's easier to go left to right. If installing right to left, leave the screws slightly loose on the left edge so that the next panel can be inserted under the panel to the right. Then tighten the screws in the right panel down. For a straight edge corner, begin by making a straight cut on the left edge. Always seal cut edges of Qora panels. Align the top of the stone with a chalk line. The stones will always be the reference point for cuts and measurements and the best place to keep panels level. Do not use the top of the panel for reference. The flange height may vary, so do not align with the flange. The correct method is to align with the top of the stones on each edge following the chalk line. As recommended, start the screws prior to holding the panel up. This makes it easier to position the panel and drive the screw. Add the fasteners along the flange and in the fastener pockets. Cut panels require face fastening. Add screws to the face along the bottom edge as needed. Overlap the next panel. Align the stone with the chalk line on both ends. As a general rule, leave 1/8 inch gap between the tightest stones or the first stones to touch. Not all stones will be 1/8 inch apart. Align the stone with the chalk line. Make sure that the panel being installed is not resting on any stones from the panel to the left. The panels allow for play of a 1/2 inch, but try to space at 1/8 inch as wider gaps are easily spotted. Each CLT panel comes with a fastener cover. Fastener covers are 4 3/4 inches wide and 2.5 inches high. The fastener cover goes in the pocket where the two panels meet, bridging the panels and breaking up the seam. To install, apply a dollop or strip of construction adhesive or high-quality exterior caulk to the back of the fastener cover. Insert the cover in place and drive 2 finish nails in the face. Apply a matching color caulk to the nail hole. Continue installing, making sure to align with the chalk line, space correctly, fasten the flange, pockets, and face as needed. Split the panel at doors and windows. Seal the cut edges and use the drop-off on the other side. When cutting the final piece, seal the edge and use the drop-off to begin the next row. Set the next row on top of the panel below. Make sure the seam will be offset by at least 4 inches from the panel below. The panel may rock on the panel below because of offset touch points on the stones. Splicing panels can save on material. In this example, we split the panel and use the drop-off on the other side of the window. Then fill the small piece below the window with scrap from offcuts. Use color-matched caulk at the seams and to cover fasteners. Continue the installation using drop-offs where possible. Cut out light fixture and other mounting blocks using an angle grinder, circular saw, or jigsaw with a masonry blade. Once a few panels have been installed, the Qora installation will run smoothly provided that the panels are aligned with the chalk line, overlapped correctly, and fastened securely. When using external corners, always install the corners first. Begin on each corner and work in toward breaks. When there is no break between the corners, most of the time a seam will be required somewhere in the row. The seam can occur anywhere. You can choose the location and work to the spot. To make a vertical seam, temporarily mount the left panel. Measure the overlap from the right stone. The maximum is 48 inches. The minimum is wherever the left panel ends. The splice can occur anywhere in this range. Choose a point and mark that point on the left panel. Remove the panel. Cut the right edge at the seam point. Seal the cut edge and reinstall the panel. Measure the distance from the top stone on the right panel to the cut edge of the left panel. Deduct 1/4 inch. Measure and mark a new panel from the same stone row. Cut the panel, seal the cut edge, and install the panel. Run a bead of color-matched caulk in the gap. Another method for joining panels, which requires more time and skill, is to create a sawtooth splice. Only attempt this if you are very comfortable with carpentry. Using this method, the contour of the left panel is cut from the right panel to make a narrower version of a panel. Professional contour tools are recommended to trace the cutout on the panel. Another method is to make a template using a piece of cardboard. Lay a panel on the cardboard and trace the left edge. The Qora packaging end cap can be used for this. Carefully cut the template out. Measure the opening between the top stones of the panel. Deduct 1/4 inch and transfer this measurement to a new panel. Align the top stone of the template and trace the template on the new panel. Use a cutoff grinder or jigsaw with masonry blade to cut out the traced edge. Caulk the edge of the cutout with color-matched caulk. Install the panel and caulk along the seam. Finally, touch up the edge of the stones with matching paints. The matching paints can be found on the QoraCladding.com website, as can color-matched caulk products. Not all corners are 90 degrees. Qora panels can be mitered at acute and obtuse angles to make a seamless corner. Mitering requires skill and comfort with angled cuts. When possible, use the same panel to make a mitered corner. This allows for mitering the stones and matching the height of stones from one side to the other more easily. Once a mitered cut is made, seal the cut edge. Typically, gaps less than 1/2 inch can be filled with high-quality, color-matched caulk. Larger gaps generally require foam backer. Follow the caulk manufacturer's instructions. Where wide gaps result, or there are large transitions in height on the cut edge, use a cutoff grinder to trim down the higher edge to a closer match. Grind away enough material to prepare for a good bond for 2-part epoxy. Use a high-quality exterior epoxy filler per manufacturer instructions to fill the gap. 2 examples of these are Bondo Multipurpose Putty and Minwax High Performance Wood Filler. These products dry quickly. When dry, apply exterior matching paint. Matching paint can be found on QoraCladding.com. For interior corners, we recommend a box trim. Box in the corner at a depth of 2 3/4 inches. Paint the trim to match. Install flush cut panels which have been sealed directly against the internal box trim. Run a bead of caulk along the edge. Alternately, the internal corner can be butted by installing one panel cut straight over the other. This will require caulk and fill as needed due to the varying heights of stones intersecting. Touch-up paint in the corner is recommended. The internal corner can also be mitered. Here again, caulk the cut edges and fill as needed.